All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number something, 112, I think it is. So today, I've been a little bit obsessed with the whole Watcher situation. So I have been watching other creators' videos about it that have been getting significantly more views than mine, probably because they're just better quality. Um, and oh boy, did I miss some key details about that moronic series of events. So you know how my video yesterday I talked about, hey look, it's creatives not knowing how to business. Nope, these people definitely know how to business. They're just fucking greedy. Greedy, condescending assholes. Holy shit. So, if you watched my video yesterday, you may remember me talking about the many ways that you can actually make money, quote unquote, on YouTube, and none of it has anything to do with living off the ad revenue. Um, I mentioned having a Patreon is effectively essential, and actually somebody commented about Patreon is really kind of unstable because, as I mentioned in my video yesterday, I'm not particularly fond of some of the decisions that Jack Conte. For anyone who doesn't know, Jack Conte is the guy that created Patreon. Um, some of the decisions that he's made have been, for lack of a better term, bullshit, and have actively hurt uh, the uh, the company itself and have actively hurt creatives that you use it. So I'm not saying Patreon is a perfect thing that you should be putting all of your money or all of your eggs in that basket. As I mentioned yesterday, diversification is key, and there are other crowdfunding websites like Subscribestar is the biggest one that you can go to if the uh, possibility of Patreon just magically deciding to completely destroy your income based on a whim and a lie worries you. Then yeah, there are other things, and that was kind of what I was getting at. Is subscription based subscription based crowdfunding is a remarkably useful tool. Patreon just happens to be the biggest. There's a lot of other ones. And while Subscribestar is significantly smaller, and Patreon fanboys and a bunch of other just activist style people have tried to get it shut down because it allows people that Patreon has decided are not allowed to live. It allows them to continue living. And the activists don't like that. When they decide that someone is supposed to die, then they're supposed to die. And you're not allowed to go against their whims. So getting back to Watcher, I mentioned, Patreon. They have a Patreon. And I might as well look it up just to see. Let's see what it is. All right, so here's their Patreon that I'm looking at right now. I want to see, 12,799 members. They're not hurting for money there, folks. In addition to the Patreon thing, I also mentioned getting sponsors for your videos has always been how real YouTubers make their money. Even when ad revenue was better, it's never been good, but even when ad revenue was better, most people that were making their exclusive living off of YouTube did it through sponsored content. And I may mention maybe they didn't want to sponsor the content, for fear of loss of creative control. Nope! They get sponsors on their video all the time. And because, again, their videos are getting hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of views, those are not like $1,000 sponsors, $1,500. No. This is me predicting. I have no clue what the actual numbers is, so don't try and quote me and say that this is real. But there is a possibility, because this is how just sponsoring works, that they're making $50,000 to $100,000 per sponsored video. If they're getting that many views, that is a theoretical number that is possible. Does that mean that that's definitely what they are getting? Absolutely not. Again, they still could be very, very stupid in business. I'm as much as I've seen over the last day or so here, it's looking to me that they understand business well enough to exploit it, but they this is still a monumentally stupid business decision, and it goes back to if anyone here has been a fan for a really really long time, and I mean long enough that you guys remember like my old house that I lived in and my creepy green chair that I used to record in, and a little thing called Alpha. For those of you that are newer to the channel, you have no idea what I'm talking about, and I strongly encourage you to not go back and look up those dog shit quality videos. It's not like the video quality is that much better now, but it was significantly worse then. I was also like 50 or 60 pounds heavier then, because that was pre my brain deciding to try and kill me. So, back when Critical Role was on Geek and Sundry, on their Twitch channel, Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel, which was owned by Legendary Entertainment, announced this new subscription service called Alpha. It was a proprietary website where you could watch stuff that actually used to be on Twitch, that they were now just moving over to Alpha. And they actually had some pretty interesting stuff. They had a few live play shows that showed up on there. Critical Role would be simulcast on Alpha and to the Twitch. And Alpha was supposed to have a bunch of really cool bells and whistles to make it a better viewing experience for people. It never did. They never worked out the bugs on it. But Alpha was a monumentally stupid decision. And Alpha, I think it lasted like barely a year. Basically what happened is they forced all of their creators, including Will Wheaton, who at that point was still making To the Tabletop, the YouTube show. They forced him to put season 4 of Tabletop on Alpha and not allow it to release to YouTube for like a month or two. So it was exclusively on Alpha for a couple months. And they actually delayed releasing, because they shot the entire series in like the spring, and then they delayed, it was supposed to come out in the summer. They delayed releasing the series until the following January so that it could come out on Alpha instead of on your YouTube. And it pissed off Will Wheaton. It actually severed the relationship that Will Wheaton had with Geek and Sundry, to where he refused to work with them ever again, and it effectively ended the Tabletop web series, which is insane because Tabletop was the reason. Tabletop and the Guild basically were the reason that Geek and Sundry became as big as it did. So you can directly blame Will Wheaton's Tabletop for Critical Role being a thing now, because if it hadn't really created popularized Geek and Sundry never would have gotten the streaming game. They never would have done Critical Role. So yeah, Alpha was a monumentally stupid thing, that it was a decision by greedy executives that thought that they could wring more money out of the Geek and Sundry fan base, because the Geek and Sundry fan base was an extremely loyal fan base that would do anything they could to support Geek and Sundry. And this is proven over and over and over and over and over again. And so I made a vlog way back when where I talked about the phrase leaving money on the table. If you've never heard this phrase, this is a business phrase, and it effectively describes a situation where if you were doing something differently, then you would just make more money. One of the most common examples that I used to deal with in retail was shopping carts. For anyone that doesn't know, shopping carts have been studied extensively from a psychological perspective, and especially for business. Shopping carts are not there for the customer's convenience. Shopping carts are there because they make money. What do you mean by that? Well, if a customer walks into a store and doesn't have a shopping cart, they will spend a set amount of money on average. If you give them like a little shopping basket, you will generally increase the average amount of money people spend. And again, they've done extensive studies on this. It's not kind of like a survivorship bias thing where it just so happened that the people that spend more money will always get a cart. No, if you give people a cart, either a handbasket or an actual shopping cart, they will spend more money in the store because it's easier to carry more things in it. And so there's been extensive research that's done on it. It is just an accepted fact. Carts make you more money. So when I was working in retail, one of the things that if our district manager came into the store, the first thing he would do is he would look at our in-store cart corral, and he would see how empty it was, because every single cart had a dollar value associated with it. Not so much like how much they cost, which, by the way, carts, remarkably expensive. Back when I was working retail, if I remember correctly, for us to order new carts, like a single cart was like $160. Like for just a little metal cage on wheels, they are remarkably expensive. So, but they actually, like, they increased your average ticket by like, it was something between like 10 or $15. And so what would happen is district manager would come in, he would look at the cart corral, and if it looked low, he would go out and he would count how many carts were in the parking lot. And then he would come in and he would go, why are you leaving, $100 on the table? And obviously we would have to go, well, what do you mean by that? Well, you've got, this many carts out in the parking lot. It's $100 that you're just leaving on the table. And that's what leaving money on the table is basically. It's an incredibly simple thing. Like, all it took was one employee to go out for a couple of minutes and collect the carts, and then we would make $100 more. Now, that's not exactly how it worked, but that's what the idea of leaving money on the table is you have this extremely simple thing that you can do that would just increase your profit without increasing costs. That's what leaving money on the table is. Alpha was effectively, the idea behind it, my theory has always been, the idea behind it was effectively we're leaving money on the table. You have an incredibly loyal customer base that is willing to spend money, and you are not taking advantage of the fact that they want to give you more money. So we're going to find a way to get more money from them. And instead of like just encouraging subscriptions through Twitch, with Twitch you have to share some of the money with Amazon. If they went to their own proprietary website, they get to keep all the money themselves. Yes, there's costs for running your own website, but that turns 50% profit into 100% profit. So, or 50% revenue into 100% revenue. So that's a really, really big deal. And so my theory has always been that Alpha was this attempt to get some of that money that was left on the table. Now, it wasn't that. And Alpha was a perfect example of everything going wrong with that idea, because they simply assumed that if they forced the Geek and Sundry fans to pay more money, that they just would. That they were just this unlimited tap of money, and all they had to do was force them to give them more, and they would just get it. And that's not how the Geek and Sundry fan base worked. It was built on the idea of being this incredibly supportive community of marginalized groups in general. Like, Geek and Sundry was founded by Felicia Day, who was a geeky actress that was not getting the roles that she wanted in Hollywood, um, generally due to stupid Hollywood politics kind of stuff, which is typical of just how Hollywood works. For anyone that doesn't know, Hollywood is a horrible, horrible place. And she wasn't allowed to talk about all the geeky stuff that she liked, like Dungeons and Dragons and board games and all the other really cool stuff in video games and stuff like that. All the stuff that she was really into, she wasn't allowed to really talk about in Hollywood. And so she got together with a couple of friends, and with the YouTube original content initiative, they started up this channel and heavily marketed as this is the kind of refuge for geeks. This is where geeks can come and be themselves, and we're going to celebrate our geekdom together. And so because of that, their fan base became incredibly supportive. Way back when the internet was young, there was a place called the Geek and Sundry Forums, and I used to frequent there a lot. Forums were Reddit before Reddit, and they predated Discord servers. But the Geek and Sundry Forums was the nicest place on the internet. And you could go there and just get supported by people from halfway around the world. And it was just so nice, and it was so great. And then the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel launched, and it started with a 48-hour charity stream to celebrate lupus research, I think is what it was, because one of the founders had to deal with lupus. In some way, shape, or form. I can't remember exactly. And they made bank. Like, they raised so much money for it. And the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel turned into this incredibly supportive... Like, if you think about Twitch chat now, it's shit. It's really, really not fun, especially big Twitch channels, because you have all the trolls and all the hate and all that stuff. That wasn't how the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel worked. They had amazing volunteer moderators, and the chat itself was incredibly supportive, and it was a fantastic, wonderful place. And it also meant that those members of the Geek and Sundry community that were relatively well off financially would bend over backwards to not only support Geek and Sundry, but to support the community. It was an amazing place. And so they assumed that because Geek and Sundry had built this amazing community, that they could just exploit it and wring it for all the money, and there would be no negative outcomes for it. And that was 100% wrong. When Alpha started getting really, really bad, all of the volunteer mods, like literally the entire moderation staff, made a post. I think it was on the Geek and Sundry forums, if I remember correctly, where they said, the phrase was, "I'm hanging up my sword." For anyone that doesn't know, on Twitch, if you become a moderator, you get a little sword icon next to your name. And so we had just a bunch of moderators who were, because they were all volunteers, they were the super fans of Geek and Sundry. They would show up all the time. They would hang out and chat. There were people, like, they would use the Geek and Sundry Twitch chat. People would just hang out there and chit chat when Geek and Sundry wasn't broadcasting anything, and moderators would still show up to moderate that offline chit chat. It was really amazing. And so when Alpha started getting really, really big and started getting really exploitative, there was literally all the mods, or I think almost all, maybe not all of them, but most of the big ones that have been there since the beginning said, "Hey, I'm hanging up my sword," and it was all followed by hashtag not my Geek and Sundry, and it became this big movement, and that movement ended Alpha. They even made a hashtag Never Alpha. And so yeah, it ended up completely destroying Alpha and completely destroying Geek and Sundry. To the point now where Geek and Sundry doesn't really exist. The Twitch channel's still there. I don't think it's broadcast in over a year. And the few things that it has broadcast have been really, really shit. The YouTube channel in and of itself is also basically gone as well. So going back to Watcher. Watcher is Alpha 2.0. They had really supportive audience that was willing to support them, especially after they left BuzzFeed, because BuzzFeed was a monster. And so they assumed that, hey, we're leaving money on the table. These people have all this money and we can just wring all the money that we can out of them. And I think this new Watcher proprietary site is going to go the same way of Alpha. Like, it's eerie how similar the situation that Alpha was and what this new Watcher thing is. Like, the parallels are incredibly similar. The big difference being, for Geek and Sundry, Felicia Day was not making any money off of Alpha. The Twitch hosts were not making any money off of Alpha. No one that was making content for Alpha was making money off of Alpha, or making significant amounts of money. The only people that were going to make money off of Alpha was Legendary Entertainment. You know, they're the people that owned the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. You know, the multi-billion-dollar film franchise. Yeah, that company was not making enough money off of Geek and Sundry. With Watcher, the people that own the channel are the ones that are trying to exploit their fans this time. And I think the backlash is going to be even worse than what happened for Geek and Sundry. Because for Geek and Sundry, you still had the Twitch hosts and everything like that were basically forced to be a part of this. There was even, I think Taliesin Jaffe made a video going, hey, just give Alpha a chance, okay? There's a lot of really awesome people that are trying to turn it into something really amazing. I think Marisha Ray at one point was, because she was the creative director for the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel, and that somehow bled over onto Alpha. And so there was a lot of people that were involved with Alpha. Again, I think kind of against their will, or not really against their will, but it was one of those things of, hey, either you support Alpha or Geek and Sundry just dies. And so Taliesin Jaffe kind of pitched it as, hey, Alpha's a necessary thing. And I actually responded, and I don't think I'm not sure if the comment ever got approved or anything, because when I put the comment on there, it got hidden so that no one could see it. But I commented on it and said, yeah, that's complete and utter bullshit. You guys, the Twitch channel is making money hand over foot. And there's no possible way that the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel is not profitable. And I actually crunched a bunch of numbers because at that point I did have a few insider connections with the channel. And I crunched some numbers and said, yeah, you guys, bare minimum, you have like a $500,000 a year surplus. And that's not counting sponsorships. That's not counting merch sales. That's not counting YouTube ad revenue. This is just from your subscriptions. Just from your Twitch subscriptions, you're making a couple $1 million a year off this channel. So no, this idea that Geek and Sundry can't exist without Alpha is bullshit. And surprisingly enough, I was right. So yeah, I've been really kind of obsessing over this whole Watcher situation, because it really infuriated me to hear these guys going, well, we can't make enough money on YouTube, when 100% you can. And now I find out not only was that statement 100% a lie, but they were doing most of the things that I recommended in my video yesterday already. So technically I was right. And yet they still feel like they can make more money, and they can kind of exploit their fans for a bigger paycheck. And it's not even, the idea of like the company is making a lot of money, but they're kind of poor. Like, they have videos of one of the people, they have videos on like TikTok, I think, somewhere, of them eating at like Michelin star restaurants and, living like, having really, really expensive luxury cars and stuff like that. Like, it's not like these people are, all living in, a single house together, trying to make rent. No, they're living exorbitant lives that if they really were hurting for money to where they couldn't continue running the channel because they just didn't have enough money for it, it would be very simple to kind of just downsize their lives, and that would instantly make the channel significantly more profitable if they would cut some of their costs. So no, Watcher. As far as I can tell, again, this is my opinion, so I don't run into any sort of legal issues. My opinion, my First Amendment protected opinion of what's going on is these guys are just greedy, money hungry assholes that accidentally stumbled into a good thing and now are trying to exploit it in an attempt to fund their extravagant lifestyles. That is my opinion. I have no insider information. This is all based on other things that I've seen on YouTube. I do not know any of these people. I cannot attest to the accuracy of any other videos talking about them. This is just my opinion. But my opinion is they're money-grubbing assholes that had a good thing and didn't realize how good a thing they have, and now they're trying to exploit it to make themselves even richer, while the rest of the country is facing poverty and evictions and homelessness and all these other horrible, disgusting things. They're trying to live an extravagant lifestyle. So, c'est la vie. Like I said, I find it really fascinating that this is almost exactly what happened with Geek and Sundry and Alpha, and I predict it's going to end the exact same way, though probably faster, because when Geek and Sundry was doing the whole Alpha thing, our economy was in a significantly better place. And people actually had disposable income. Right now, we're in a super, super bad place. So, yeah, I think this new Watcher thing is going to die spectacularly. And if the Watcher Boys are smart, they will go back to YouTube and just try to pretend that this proprietary thing never happened. I don't know if they're that smart, or if their arrogance is so great that they're going to just assume that if they can't do whatever they want, that they're just going to stop doing it. Again, my understanding is they're currently living relatively extravagant lifestyles, and there's no possible way that they're going to be able to get jobs that will pay as well as what they were making through YouTube. Like it's just not possible. Even if they are, to my understanding, they are relatively skilled at what they do. So it's not like they're putting out shit content. No, they make good content. So they theoretically could transition to Hollywood. But the thing is, people that do their jobs in Hollywood don't make real money. Like they're not minimum wage jobs, because nothing in California is a minimum wage job. Even the minimum wage jobs aren't minimum wage jobs anymore. But they don't make good money, and they never have, because Hollywood does not pay. Hollywood only pays directors and star actors well. Everybody else gets paid shit, and is meant to be thankful for the crumbs that they are given. Anyway, yeah, I just found it interesting, and I'm interested to see where this goes, because, like I said, to me it sounds like this is going to be a massive dumpster fire. And as much as it sucks for the rest of the people that work at the company that probably don't make anywhere near the amount of money that the owners make, they're going to lose their jobs, and they're going to lose their jobs in an economy that is not favorable to job hunters right now, and that really sucks. However, they're going to lose their jobs because their employers are dipshit morons. So I feel bad for their employees, because they probably don't have a lot of choices right now. However, all that would need to happen for them to still have jobs is for the owners to stop being fuckwits and understand that they have a really good thing that they're about to destroy by being greedy. So, is my opinion. Anyway, that's all for me today. I will see you guys tomorrow. All right? Bye-bye.